everyone. Wasabi.
Wasabi Wednesday. Yes, welcome everybody to another coaching session with Red Bull Will. I'm feeling great this morning. I hope you are. Life is good. It was nice and cool on my run this morning, so I felt great. So hope you got your exercise in. Also, we're going to exercise our real estate minds this morning and sharpen our saws on a very common objection that we're getting right now. And you know what? So the objection I sent out in the coaching was something. It was something I heard from one of our agents, but it was, in the fast-paced market and listings are selling in a week or less. The seller said, it's really hard for me to justify spending $60,000 with you guys when it's selling in a week. And they'd found somebody else that would do it for less, and it was about $40,000. And that's $20,000 difference. And I already told you guys how important it is for me to net the most. So, if you guys will do it, I'll go with Berkshire Hathaway. But if you're not, I'm going to go with the company that will do it for me.
10:30.
So, okay, what do you think? You got any before I break it down, what would you say to that? How do you handle that objection? Anybody want to raise your hand? Okay, so let's unmute Mike. Mike, how would you handle that objection?
Well, first of all, you'd have to start, I think, from the premise that you're trying to get them the best price and the best bottom line. And just because they can get an offer doesn't mean they're automatically going to have the best offer. I mean, that seems to me to be the only way to answer that question.
Okay. All right. So, there is a couple of tips today, and this is one of them, that we both have the same objective with every seller, and that is to net the most. So if we can bring them back to the focus on netting the most, that tends to help us a lot, because it's easy to be agreeable with that. How does anyone argue, that we both want the best bottom line? So that's good. Anybody else have something before I break it down? Something you want to add? How about some of our veterans here, like Jim or Kevlar, Jason? Let's see, who else is on here? Veteran. Brian Klinger is on. Anybody want to play along here?
Well, I'd just say that, a lot of times people don't understand that as a result of the transaction being handled correctly and the negotiations being handled correctly by a seasoned pro, that just as you said, they are going to net more money as a result of possibly, generating multiple offers and ending up actually having a better chance of actually getting even a higher net than they would have if they'd gone with a discount broker who literally put it out there and they took the first offer that came along. They didn't actually leverage the seller's market and get them top dollar. They just were after a quick paycheck.
Yeah, good point, Kev. Hey, you and I were talking, keep your mic on. I asked this question yesterday in Sales Meeting. Do you think a fast-paced market is creating fast-paced presentations and therefore causing a negative effect of getting more objections? Do you think it's in a hurry?
Yeah. I definitely think that's the case. A lot of times we're in such a hurry to get on the next deal. We're not really listening to the client and figuring out that their primary need is to net the most out of it. And we're not just trying to figure out how to get a quick contract signed and move on. And then hopefully an offer comes in and we don't have to deal with the people anymore. Sometimes we get into that trap of not really caring about the people's needs and trying to focus on what we want more is just another transaction, get it over quickly instead of actually figuring out what's best for the client.
I think that's very, very well said. Look, there's a lot of tips today on this, and these are general tips before I break down, kind of like how my response I think would be. But we have to slow down and show the complexities of what's going on. You know, like the other day, I was having a conversation with one of our agents, and I said, I could tell that they were in a hurry. I said, well, can we take a trip around the neighborhood, is the way I described it. Because what I was trying to say is, look, I can answer it right here and say, you know, the best thing for you to do, using commission objection here, is to keep a 6% commission. Okay, I can answer that, but I got to take you around the neighborhood so you can see why. And it's going to take a minute. You know, like I'm going to have to show you some of the things that go into this. And I'm using the word show. I'm going to show you. Okay, I don't want you to tell them, I want you to show them. And if we're getting in a hurry and we're not showing them, then, well, hello, they think it's too easy.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we're our own worst enemy here, guys, because we so often just go, oh, it's not a problem. And we forget to think about what's at stake here. There's usually hundreds of thousands of dollars at stake for many of our clients. You take our average sales price, we've got $500,000 in equity we're talking about here. If you take our average sales price in many of our markets, I mean, if we're in the Wasatch back, that might be low. On the Wasatch front, we have hundreds of thousands of dollars at stake. So
Hey, Will, check out the chat. Brian Klinger just made a really good point. A lot of our clients believe that, you know, our job is just to market it and then we get an offer and our job's done. In reality, that's just when the job really starts, because we have to ask the right questions about the qualification of the buyer, which buyer is strongest, about the contingencies, how to navigate through the contingencies. And that is not done by a newbie discount broker. They literally just leave that to the buyer to figure it out on their own. And that's why they net less, because of the experience that we have and being able to actually comb through and avoid going under contract with the wrong person that will literally take their home off the market and then ultimately fail. We, as a result of our knowledge and our experience, are able to pick the right buyer that's actually going to close and actually get them to the finish line.
yeah, very well said, both of you. Thanks, Brian, for weighing in on that. You know, Brian is one of our experienced agents. He's if you don't know Brian, he's an outstanding guy with a great business acumen and history. And he makes friends easy with his clients, and his heart's in it. And he's just a fantastic agent. And he makes a really good point. But see, I have a question for you guys. Do you really provide that? And think about this. Do we vet offers? Do we pick up the phone and call and verify and, you know, treat it like an HR company would do, or an HR department would do when we hire someone? And if we're not, then we need to make that a real commitment to what we do to vet each buyer. And so before, so Brian's saying absolutely. So we are on the phone with the lender. You know, so yes, I got your letter, but can we talk this through? Are there any things that are giving you any concern? And if the lender says, well, I haven't been given authorization to talk about that, I said, well, we're about to make a decision on what offer to take. Would you like to talk to the borrower and get permission to talk to me? And then call me back. And so we need to put this back in our process, because, you know, look at what Cindy says. I get to sell the house 3 times. Which 3 times is she talking about? Which 3 times? What's the first one? Cindy, do you want to unmute yourself, or Joe grabs Cindy and unmute? So we get to sell the house 3 times. So this is kind of breaking down, you know, how many times do we have to overcome the hurdle of getting it sold? Go ahead, Cindy. What are they?
So it goes like this. First of all, Mr. Seller, chances are our highest price, our highest offer might not be our best offer. And so it's very critical to select, and of course you select the best offer for you. There's terms, there's many things involved. Things that I get to do is I speak with their lender. I do, to the best of my ability, background checks on the buyers. And then I provide you with that information. The other aspect is I get to sell the home 3 times. Do you know what those 3 times are? Well, the first time is to get that right buyer under contract. And the second time is to keep them under contract at the agreed upon price through inspection. It would shock you if you knew how many buyers how many agents, and I hate to say this, but I've seen it. How many agents bring their buyers through and say, let's just write a full price offer, we'll get it under contract, and I'll beat them down during inspections.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad, but it happens.
Yep.
So the second time I get to sell it is to get it through inspections at that agreed upon price. And the third time is to get it through appraisal. Some people call those hurdles. I don't call them hurdles. I use them as opportunities, as I'm selling the home 3 times. And then I have a very effective and has been successful appraiser package. So I provide the appraiser with all of the documents and comparable properties. Notice I say documents first, because those are usually more valuable, can be more valuable than the comparables. I provide them with the documents, a very professional written letter of why we priced it where we did, if there's been multiple offers, how many showings, all the different things. I provide that with the seller. And then on each one of the comparables, I make notes on every one of them. Our view was better. They didn't have a view. Ours was updated. There wasn't etc.
Right. Right.
Those are the 3.
Very good. Thank you, Cindy. I really appreciate that. There's some really good tips in there, guys. Really appreciate Brian and Cindy and Kevlar already adding a lot to our discussion this morning. And just, you know what, if we were, I said this before, we're in live settings, so I'll say it over Zoom. So often, as I've been tasked to lead a discussion, I've marveled at those who made a decision on whether or not they were going to join coaching, and they said, I'm sure you're busy, but you decide to join. And what you get out of it is maybe not so much of what you took away, but what you provided. And I think a lot of happiness comes from contribution. And so thank you for being so willing, all of you, to share your ideas with your teammates. It's the best way. There was a segment of my early years where I locked all my secret sauces down, and I'm telling you, it doesn't work. It's a dead end. So the more you share, the more you grow and the more you learn. And you don't lose a competitive advantage by sharing your secrets, guys, I promise you. And I really appreciate it. And you make a difference. And I wanted to just remind you of that. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to talk about just a kind of a response to this objection. Let me move it over here. Whoops, sorry. Okay, I'm having a hard time with my not having my 2 screens today. Okay, there we go. So this is kind of what, if I were to script it out, this would be the script. Our systems of marketing often generate higher prices, and they do it quickly. Our seller clients really prefer this. Those systems are made possible by the fees we charge. Although we don't know exactly how long we will be on the market, wouldn't we rather have the time of the inconvenience be as short as possible? So remember the common, I understand how you feel, and others have felt the same way, and this is what we have found. There's a little bit of that structure that's in this communication style. Okay, but it's kind of starting off with what we have found right in the beginning. So it's starting off with our systems of marketing often generate higher prices and do it quickly. So remember, our objection was about someone who's saying, geez, guys, you're only on the market from their point of view for 1 week. If we took what Cindy was saying and what Brian is saying, our job is just getting started. We've still got a lot of different hurdles to get over, or opportunities, as Cindy said, to get through that. But this style of response is coming with the answer already to the objection. So our systems of marketing often generate higher prices and do it quickly, which our sellers really prefer. And wait, I got to pause for a sec. Whether you love Trump or hate Trump, his communication style has an effective, a positive effect on communication. So you could repeat it. See, our seller clients really prefer it. I mean, they really like it. And you're repeating it, right? Matter of fact, we like it too, don't we? I mean, because we've been in a market where sellers have had to wait weeks, months, years even. And the stress on the family is notable, right? It's obvious and it's not fun. And we've seen that. And so we really enjoy the results of our marketing as well. So, but how is that made possible? It's made possible by the fees we charge. And although we don't know exactly how long we're going to be on the market, wouldn't we rather that be as short as possible? Notice that the end of it here is a question. So let me stop sharing. That's kind of a breakdown of the response. It's taking what we've found and move it forward. It's saying, we really like it. Others have felt the same way is in the middle. And then the end of it is the question. So the question is a tie down. So it's using wouldn't it, or couldn't it, or shouldn't it, or wouldn't you, or would you see, or can you see? So any way that we want to put that tie down in there, it gives a positive response. So wouldn't you like the inconvenience to be as short as possible? What do you think about that? You like it? I did put that in the chat yesterday in sales meeting and got a few of you texting me saying thank you, and I appreciate that. Do you like it? Would you use that? Yeah? So let me make sure that you guys understand. For those of you who might be early in having a coaching with me, I don't believe in ever memorizing a script ever. But I do believe in you memorizing patterns, because I want you to be authentic. Matter of fact, I kind of want you to stumble a little bit on how you'd say it. In the Park City meeting, I totally stumbled. I wrote my own objection script, and then I blew it. But nobody could say I was over-rehearsed and not authentic. See, Nicole, were you there? You're smiling. So did you hear me just totally blow it? You can admit it. I did. Kev, I blew it, didn't I?
No, you're fine.
I was fine. Well, it didn't come out as practice as I had hoped. But don't be too hard on yourself. Kev, do you want to verbalize what you just typed in, or that's a?
Well, there's the old story of the kid who his dad was a barber in a small town, and everybody hung out at the barbershop. It was the center of the community. Stories are told there. The clients are so loyal to his dad, and he watched this. And across the street, a barbershop opened up and had $5 haircuts, and his dad charged $15. And everybody started migrating over to the other barbershop across the street, where the expectation was, hey, I get a cheap haircut for less money and whatever. And so, the kid was really worried, because all of a sudden the business was drying up, and his dad put up a a sign that said, we fix $5 haircuts. And within a month, the other barber was out of business, and they were back at his dad's. So we just have to understand that we provide the value and the service, and the consumer perceives that value and service and our expertise. And we need to be proud of what we do, and understand that that's our job, is to do it right and fix those $5 haircuts from these no services brokers.
Yeah. We've said before, Kev, haven't we said that we work in the ER of real estate transactions? Or you?
Yeah.
Because we see all the broken legs and all the problems, and there's a lot of them. So we see all those bad haircuts. We see them all the time, and they can be extremely expensive and very, very damaging to people. So, we want to be passionate about protecting our clients. We know we've got to do that through our fees, guys. Ultimately, our fees are what makes all this possible. I'd like you to remember a couple of these are some I don't know if you want to call it one-liners or headlines, simple phrases, but this is what I always come back to. Berkshire Hathaway was born to net our seller clients more. I can say that a different way, but I can say it's our core proficiency. It's what we do best. It's the reason we exist. So write that down. That's what we're all about. So let's take that equation a little further. If we're all about the net, and we really believe that, okay, if we're committed to that, why don't we jettison our commission so that it can hit the bottom line and raise their net? Why don't we do that? What have we learned in our lab experiments about taking a 6% and turning it into 5%, or turning it into 4%, or turning it into a flat fee? What have we learned in thousands of real estate transactions about what that lab results are? So let me ask you, real estate agents, because I'll just take it from your perspective. When you see a 2.5% BAC or a 2% BAC, what do you already know about that seller? What do you know? Are negotiations going to be easier or harder? Are they motivated? Are they difficult? Are they challenging? What about the agent? Is it going to be easier? Will they do their job on a high level, or will you have to pick up the pieces? What is communicated to the market when the incentive to the sales force is minimized? What is it saying about the thought process and what's behind this particular product? Yeah, look, we all know it's going to be harder, right? Kara, I think you and I could testify on a stand in court about how challenging that has been when we saw a 2.5% BAC on a $1.2 million listing and then went under contract. And yes, it was challenging, right? So you guys already know that. So what we're already committed to, look, we got to get a 3% BAC out there. For a lot of you, you know that Berkshire Hathaway doesn't allow us. We've decided as a firm, as a unit, we do not discount the BAC. It sends the wrong message, ultimately hurts our clients. So what about the 3% on the, on the listing side? Write this down, and then I want to show my screen. I want to give you a couple of tips. Time's flying, and I really want to keep this fast paced because a lot of you have heard a lot of this before. But let's here's the question. What is in the 3% listing side? Because so often they're saying, well, no, I don't want you to discount the 3. I'm okay with that. They want you to take it for less on the listing side. So how does that fund everything? What is the listing? Why is the listing side of the commission so important? Anybody? Why is the listing side so important? I've got a few notes here. Let's see what you have to say. I mean, where does that money go?
Andy said motivation, and I think that's accurate. If a seller is just whittled you down and beat you up on commission, and you have other listings that you're earning a full 3%, maybe you don't spend as much time. None of our agents would ever do that. But honestly, you got to ask yourself, if this seller is such a pain in the butt to work with, and he's just not grateful, and they resent everything that you do, and beating you up, maybe you shouldn't have taken the listing in the first place and moved on to people who do appreciate what you do, and just worked with 3 people who would pay the full 3%. So you lose your motivation when somebody tells you you're not worth it.
Yeah, that can. I think where I go with that, Kev, is I think what about the seller's own business? Is there, if I know something about them, could I use what they've learned in their own business about what happens when they lower the incentive for the sales force? What has happened to any product or business that they're in? But can we give a warning here? Big warning. It's not about us. It's not. If we think our argument is because it's about I don't make enough, we're done.
Yeah.
We're so done. And this sometimes it's a test. These sellers are interviewing people that they're going to trust with their most valuable asset, and they want to see how you respond to this. And if you become defensive about what's good for you, well, they just saw your character.
Yeah.
Right. So what we do is like, look, it isn't about us. We understand the world, but it does fund everything. I like what Rachel had to say. Look at the chat. Look, we've got administrative duties here. We've got marketing costs that a lot of them are prepaid and upfront. And in our world, we never really have a guarantee of making that money back. Right. So we are investing that effort, the labor, we're going to fund it all. We're dividing out the roles here. And we've come up with a lot of different marketing packages and technologies and tools that we as agents, guys, we get this in a bundle, right? And we pay for it by a split. But in a traditional business, this would come to you and you'd be paying for these things up front with every listing. Now, the arrangement and the model we have, which I think is best, is the brokerage up fronts it. And then the agent participates when it's closed. It's a great deal for agents. You think about from a business standpoint, it's fantastic. But don't minimize that with your sellers, because you pay for that ultimately, and we all pay for that ultimately because of what our proficiency is, which is all about netting them the most. Okay, so I hope you got some of the tips out of that. So yes, this 3% is for administrative work. So Rachel's spot on. It's all for the marketing costs that are paid up front. It also pays the time of the listing agent and the role that you play in that. It also funds resources. And we don't just have people, we have experts. And don't forget your team. Make sure that this is in your presentations. We're slowing down. We should be very proud of the team we have. It's the best team I've ever seen, ever been a part of. Our brokers are fantastic. Our staff is fantastic. Our agents are fantastic. Our network of agents is fantastic. That's very valuable for our sellers.
Make sure you point out that we have to pay for the soda machine at Old Mill.
Yeah, exactly. How are we gonna fund the soda machine? Yeah.
Well, I used to sell very complex point-to-point telecommunication systems before everybody had a cell phone, and your work phone was actually really important. And the site visits to find out if they could actually do what they wanted to do technically, the work involved was about a 4-hour sales engineering pre-sale, it's very in-depth, right? And the list of things that had to be done was 6 pages long. And we got to a point in these complex sales where I would sit down with the customer and we would show them everything we were going to do. Just like you've been asking all of us, right? With the forms manual, with everything else, show. You got to show all the legal issues, show all the prep work, show all the things that have to be done. And then I used to say, okay. And then I went to the bottom of it where it said agree to terms of the contract. I'd circle that and I'd hand that to the buyer. I'd say, so that's your job. I'm going to take care of the other 6 pages. And that right there is sort of helping them understand the value of what's happening at this particular point in the transaction. I mean, they have to see that selling a house is not being on the market in the MLS for a week and just saying yes to an offer, right? I mean, they don't, most buyers that are offering a discounted BAC are trying to do that because they don't understand the value and the work involved in getting the listing price that's best for them and getting the asking price that's best for them, and then actually getting the transaction closed with what's best for them. And so that visual representation of here's the work that has to be done to sell a house, right? Doesn't matter if it's a $250,000 home or if it's a $2.5 million home. This is the work that has to be done. I'm taking care of all of these things, and you're going to agree to be honest in your seller's disclosures and some of these other parts, but your part of this giant list of things to do is very small. And the fees that we are asking for, including commission, are what allow me to do all of this other stuff.
Yeah, very well said, Joe. I love Joe. Love you, brother.
Love you, Will.
There ain't another CTO on the planet who can talk sales processes like Joe.
And he was sorry.
Yeah, good words of wisdom. Write this down too, guys. Overcoming objections starts at the beginning of the presentation. you know, a lot of objections just don't get said because they're resolved in the way you're naturally communicating. You know, we as humans, I'm over Zoom here and you can see me and I've got hand gestures because I can't help myself. But there's a tone, there's an emphasis, there should be sincerity, there should be heart. And you can tell, it's kind of like our built-in instincts. You know when someone's not being truthful, but you also know when you feel like they are. And so we got to check our mindsets, you know? I mean, we've got to remember that our objective and our job is to get them what's best for them. So it's been interesting. My mindset, I'm always open to ideas. I mean, I guess I would concede that if someone could convince me that being a for sale by owner would be better, then I'm open to hear it. The trouble is, I've never heard that as a real solution. Like that was really smart, but I'm open to listening because I do care about what's best for them. And so, you know, a lot of times you'll get people to say, and it's actually, they'll say, well, you look, we trust you. So just whatever, you know, and I think that's nice, but it reminds me that the overcoming objections happened at the beginning, you know, and that you earn your reputation and you've got to be committed. I mean, down to the cellular level that what's best for that client is what you're after. And we test this all the time with this concept of removing commission. Does it raise net? And the trouble is it doesn't. It's very flawed. And if we remove commission, we end up costing our seller more than the commission itself. And so this package and bundle of services is built to net them the most. It's what we all want. It's what we all want.
And the seller's in scarcity mindset, right, Will? I mean, all they're doing is they're looking at a pie and they're putting their price at the top, and all they're doing is they're dividing the pie. They're not even imagining a bigger pie. They're just saying, if this is 100% of what I get at closing, then if I pay you more, I get less, period. There's no thought or reasoning behind the idea that in order to get all of those pieces, you don't need to take a fixed amount on the pie and then call that good. You have to be able to expand the pie. I thought what Brian typed in the chat before he's talking about the lower BACs, you know, he's talking about the upfront marketing costs and all those other things that have to be there. Why would you pay somebody else who's competing against you? Why would you pay more for somebody to come bring a buyer to your house and spend more for them to out negotiate you than you would with me? And exactly what Kevin Larson was saying, you know, several minutes ago, the idea of making somebody taking away their incentive to do their best job possible, it's a human thing, right? I mean, it's an absolute human thing. And that's really where some of the discounters that are out there buying billboards and everything else, they're trying to get you in that scarcity mindset. They're trying to tell sellers, there's a fixed amount here, and the more you give away to your agents, the less is for you. And it's an incorrect mental perspective.
I love the passion on this call today. Write this one down too. I've often said, well, the reason why they charge less is because they know what their services are worth. I mean, and I'm saying that I'm not just jabbing them. I mean, I might be a little, but I'm saying that truthfully. I don't know what their services are worth. I'm not the expert on ABC Realty. They must know what their services are worth. I don't, but I think they're adjusting their price in line with what the value of what they provide. That's okay.
And there's been accountants on these discounting big brokerages that are doing spreadsheet analysis, and they're saying that our agents can only spend X amount of hours, right? Because every agent in any iBuyer program or any Homey or any Zillow eBuyer, no matter what the discounter is, there's a business model that they have to meet. So they're not allowed to give their best effort. They're allowed to give the effort the brokerage has deemed acceptable from a profitability standpoint.
Yeah.
So you can't say that they're giving their best service. They're giving the allotted time that their bosses have told them, this is what you can spend on this particular transaction, on any given transaction.
Yeah, there's too much variable nature to real estate to do that to people, and that's where people get hurt. Let me put something on the table that Mike and just in the chat here that Mike and Brian were bringing up about this idea that they're actually taking a 6% listing, but they're offering less BAC. I guess they just figured that the buyer agent will do it for less. There's a lot of discounters who think that's the case. Of course, we at Berkshire Hathaway, we do expect a 3% BAC. Our buyer broker agreements are at 3. And you need to have, remember guys, if you're not having your buyer consultation presentation with your buyer and explaining how you're paid, then that 3% or these 2.5s are going to come up and bite you. And I think that that's possible. Yes, so Coach Kara is saying, so you're saying the listing agent is keeping 3.5 and 4. I don't know how often that happens, but I think it's out there. So don't just assume that the agent, couldn't convince the seller to get a 6% listing. I was surprised to see a closing statement recently where we thought there was discount on the other side. There was not a discount on the other side. And that rubbed our agent wrong. Of course, they came to me and said, what can we do about it? I said, well, now that it's closed, not anything you're going to do about it. But you should have asked and, lesson learned. So remember that too, guys. Remember that too. So good stuff. All right, let's break down a couple of these patterns. I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen. And come here. Okay, so I guess I've got some warnings too. I guess I'll go through the, some quick do's and don'ts. Do answer, do ask questions to confirm concerns. Remember, this is really communication that we're talking about. So make sure you have clarity on where they're coming from. It also gives you time to mentally kind of get your answers and your patterns right. So you listen, don't cut them off, don't get too excited. I know we get really passionate about our answers, so be patient. Restate it and say it back. And that's a good way to know that you've got it right. Never argue. If we're ever caught arguing, we've lost, so you're already losing. Remember the analogy I used about playing tennis versus standing side by side with somebody? Do not play tennis in objection handling. If you find yourself continuing to hit back concern and they hit it back to you and say, yeah, but, and then you say, yeah, but, you're on the wrong end of this. Okay. You've got to get yourself aligned with what they want. Best way to do that is to say, we both want net. Okay. We're both after the net. Never speak negatively about the competition. There's differences. People make business decisions. People decide to charge less and provide less. That's okay. Hey, it's America, right? It's America. We can do this. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're just going to get the same thing. And that is our job, to show them the differences. Don't answer unless you're speaking from their perspective. This is, again, don't play tennis. Okay. Don't play tennis with objection handling. So here is that simple pattern. And sometimes this works. I like it that it has empathy in it, so I understand how you feel. And look, this is just the pattern. I can say this a lot of different ways, or I can say it over and over again. A lot of our sellers have felt that way. We've had past clients who feel this way. We as a company are, think about our commission structures all the time. That's validating how they feel. Don't go too fast over that. Stay there a minute and make sure that you express that you do understand that it's concerning to them. And this is another validation. Others have felt the same way. If we're looking at that, the script here back, this is where we're saying, which our sellers, sorry, let me move that over. Which our seller clients really prefer. That's another way of saying others have felt the same way, right? So then this is what we have found. And really in this particular script, I'm just saying, let's wrap that up with a question. Wouldn't you rather have that time of inconvenience be as short as possible? Okay. So that's I like this pattern for communicating. I understand that how you feel. Look, this has come up before, or we've thought about this a lot. There's different ways to phrase this. I'm assuming that a lot of you have used that before. You kind of have to practice it. You do memorize this, by the way, but you don't memorize word for word. I've never really been a fan of that. So here's kind of how that might. Here's another script on how that might come out. Jim, I understand how you feel. As a matter of fact, just last week, I had a client that felt just as you do. They're also very concerned about obligating themselves to a purchaser without fully knowing if they could sell their current home. To be perfectly honest, so am I. What we have found is that there are a number of ways that we can minimize risk in these situations. Which one is best is up to you. Here are some things we can do. And then, of course, what am I doing here? I'm showing them. So in this particular concern, you can tell the seller was reluctant to put their house on the market knowing they've got to buy another one. And I think a lot of people, that's a legitimate concern today. Guys, we've got low inventory. They're not really sure where they can go. They want to shop with cash and approval, but they've got the anchor of the home to sell. And that is a problem. And we need to talk them through that. And it's complicated and it needs a lot of time. But this is one way to use that pattern in communicating back a way to lead them, right? To lead them. Okay, so here are some more, steps to this. And by the way, matter of fact, let's do this. Let's do this. Let me stop for a second and I'll come back to this. Go in chat right now and write out, let's see how well you know this. This is the core benefits. So, we don't buy feature, we buy benefits. So they're not going to buy your syndication, okay? So they're not going to buy syndication because that's the feature of what we do, but they'll buy the reason and the result and the why of the syndication, okay? They're not going to buy your marketing, but they'll buy what it does, okay? So tell me this, in the chat, tell me what our core benefits are. So these are the reasons we do things. We've already talked about them. Like, okay, I'll give you the easy one. The easy one is net the highest possible price. That's a core benefit. So what else are there? Okay, what else do we have in that list? So number one, highest possible net. Okay, highest possible net. What else is there? Yeah, so Michael, so this is why time, least amount of legal risk, good. Short amount of time, good. Reduced legal risk, quickest sale, net price, time, risk, good. So we can phrase that other ways, like, finding the right buyer is another way to say that. We already heard, Cindy kind of saying the right buyer may not be the highest, buyer. So make sure you write those down, guys, and memorize those, because that's a great way to communicate. You should communicate always with benefit, not with feature, okay? Because they see value in benefit. They don't always see value in features. If you communicate with feature, you're assuming they'll make the translation to benefit. Do you understand that? So that's, you just got to remember that they don't always get why that's good for them. Okay. 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 Yeah. Okay. So highest net, highest possible price is another way to say highest net. Least amount of legal risk and quickest sale, or within their time frame. I like to find out what their goal is, and then if they say they'd like to be, closed no later than Thanksgiving, then I say that as the core benefit. So I actually say the date instead of just generically saying the least amount of time possible. I speak to their goal and what they want, and of course I wouldn't have known what their goal was if I didn't ask them good questions in the beginning, right? Okay. Okay, is this good? Is this fun? Is there a lot of gems today? Man, the straws are getting so sharp. Woo! It feels good to be in a great company, doesn't it? Where there's a lot of confidence in the model and the people, and we should be very proud of the team we're a part of. We're proud of you guys. I mean, hey, did you guys catch this? That the market's up 20, but in some of our markets, we're up 40%. On our listings. What is that saying? That's saying that people are, look, inventory in Salt Lake County, I just saw this today, is down 49%. So it's down 50%. But what about Berkshire Hathaway? Well, last week we doubled our listings over last year. And the week before that, we did the same thing. So we're up 100% and the market is down 50%. I'm not a mathematician, but that's a big difference. But what is it saying? It's saying that all this in summation that we've been talking about, the lab is coming back and saying, the public says, I'm voting, since it's voting season, I'm voting for Berkshire Hathaway. And I'm going to vote with my confidence and my money. And I mean, you know, we should go with confidence with that. Okay. Let's go. Look, we're on the tail end here. So let's get this last pattern reviewed. So, you know, I have, this is my reminder, just listen, number one, listen is because I'm always so excited to say what I believe, you know, and I always remind myself to just listen to what they have to say. And then asking is another chance to listen. You know, like, am I getting this right? See, you can't give a really good diagnosis, a really laser focused, you know, diagnosis until you have laser focused information. So you've got to ask a lot of good questions. You know, this empathy, this is being human and caring and big picture and what matters most. I mean, we're selling people's homes. Hold on a second. I got to say something about this. So I'm talking to a good friend of mine, and they just, matter of fact, they sold the house here about 4 doors down, and I'm in their living room, and they had just in breakneck speed, we put a house under contract down in Old Mill, just under $1 million. And these people, this is not kind of out of character for them. They moved so quickly. They saw it, they bought it, and here we're under contract. And I don't know if they really paused a lot to think about it, about everything that was going to go on, the emotional side of it. So here we are in their living room, and we're talking about listing their house. And I looked over, and her name is Katie, and Katie has got tears in her eyes. And I said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Talk to me. What's wrong? Something up? What do you?" And she goes, "No, I'm sorry. And so the husband looked at her and said, she goes, are you okay?" And clearly he was guessing too as to why she was emotional. I mean, I guess you could say they're moving houses, they're moving neighbors and friends and all that's emotional, but there was something else and I couldn't put my finger on it. So this is what she said. She said, "Well, the last time I saw my dad, he ate at that table." So, and she goes, "I guess I just didn't think about the fact that wouldn't be my kitchen anymore, my dining room anymore." I guess I can't say enough that it would be really arrogant for any of us in this company to ever think if we gave a great presentation and we were great at our communication and great at overcoming objections, that's it, you know, and we get every listing. And there's just bigger things at play than that. And we should be aware of it and respectful of it and show concern and empathy for people. So sorry, I hope that was okay, guys. But I get reminded of that all the time. And I think I just think it's really important. When we restate the question back, I think that's to make sure we understand before we come into these other phases. And so this is where I could say, is there anything else that's bothering you? If there's anything else in the way, and then we go to answer it. And I think this is what we have found, and that's where the answer is. These fees of ours is what makes all of this marketing possible, which is designed to net you the most. And if we remove the fee, we remove the bundle of services, and ultimately we have found that just doesn't help you. Let's go back and take a look at some of the things that we think are really critical in this bundle of services. And I think that, might be a way to do number 6 here. The tie down question, there's the tie down. I think the net bottom line realize is really the most important thing, isn't it? And they can say, so that you can have more down payment for your new purchase, so that you can hit the 20% down requirement for your jumbo financing, so that you can have a payment that's as low as possible on your new purchase, whatever that is. You get very, very specific. This is generic, but you should make it fit them, And then the last is, I'm ready to get started. I think there's a lot of work to be done here. And it's, as we've talked about, all I need to do now is have you authorize the paperwork and we can get going. And And, you know, look, this isn't the presentation. This is just the pattern for communicating, overcoming a concern. So I hope that helps. I'm going to kind of end it there as far as what I was going to cover today, and put it kind of back to you guys. Any questions or insights or takeaways or anything that you want to give as feedback? I guess, do you feel a little more confident now about how you can talk through some of these things? Yes? Or is everyone going, I don't want to sell the house where dad had his last dinner? What a horrible job we have. Tammy and I could never sell the house we were in for 28 years because our youngest daughter was born in one of the bedrooms unexpectedly, by the way, unexpectedly. But her birth certificate actually has our home address. So she won't let us move. And so we just bought another house. Anyway, I hope that was good, guys. I'll tell you what, so let's do this. Hit me with the takeaways. What's the one thing that you feel like you could do better, or you got from this that you'll implement? I keep a list of these in our and we record these. Joe sends me the text, so it's been very helpful. So go ahead and tell me what resonated with you. Selling the home 3 times. Very good, Cindy and Tara. Tara, that's a thank you to Cindy. Cindy, thanks for reminding everybody of that. Yeah, the handout. So this is this is what we were going through today. I guess I should have started with that, but it's in the coaching communication. It was about halfway through. So if you don't have that, email me. We'll get you one. And thank you all for being on the call today. I really appreciate it. I think next time we're going to try a new thing with Zoom and do some breakout rooms where you can kind of practice some of these things together. So, and I appreciate everyone's input. Kevlar, thank you. Joe, thanks for your insight. And Brian Klinger and Rachel, Cindy, really appreciate you guys weighing in today. And Mike, appreciate you being on and your perspective on that commission thing too. I really do appreciate you guys. Okay, well, go have a phenomenal day and go out there with confidence and show some empathy always. You can't love someone too much, guys. You know, you're in a great company, and we should all be proud of the team that we have. We love you all. I know from the top down, everybody is very appreciative of everyone that we have. We feel very blessed and lucky to have you all. So go have a great day and go help another client net the most on their purchase. They need you. Okay, we're out. You can stop recording, Joe.